Hello, what is these Bricks here, and welcome to another Pierce Custom Minifigure video. Today we're taking a look at the final member of the Surpressed 6-2, Big Wheel, also known as lesser-known Spidey villains, number 12. So, history lesson, and then I'll get into how I made this amazing contraption known as Big Wheel. Jackson Wheel. Jackson Wheel is a businessman who has embezzled from his company. Fearing that he might be caught, he hires a youthful criminal, Rocket Racer, to steal the evidence that incriminates him. However, Rocket Racer opts to use the evidence to blackmail Wheel instead, and his last name is spelled W-E-E-L-E. Despairing, Wheel tries to commit suicide, but Rocket Racer prevents him from doing so. However, Racer is not particularly kind to Wheel, disparagingly referring to him as Big Wheel. Humiliated by Rocket Racer's taunts, Wheel visits the mechanical genius and underworld supplier, the Tinkerer, who the Rocket Racer boasted had upgraded his equipment. At Wheel's urging, the Tinkerer creates a large metal wheel that can climb up with buildings, complete with guns and Waldo arms. With this new vehicle, Wheel becomes the supervillain known as Big Wheel, now spelled W-H-E-E-L. Newly empowered, Big Wheel hunts down and chases Rocket Racer across the city. In the process, he ends up finding the title character, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is also seeking Rocket Racer, whom he had battled in a previous issue. Unfortunately, Wheel lacks practice in using his new device, and in the heat of the battle, the Big Wheel topples off of a high rooftop and plunges into the Hudson River. Spider-Man tries to save him, but comes up empty-handed. He presumes Jackson Wheel died when the Big Wheel sank to the bottom of the river. Big Wheel did not appear in another comic book for more than 20 years. However, the story was picked up again by writer Christos Gage. As often happens in the comics medium, Wheel survives his seemingly deadly encounter. He turns up again with his Big Wheel while Spider-Man is in combat with Stiltman. This time, Big Wheel attempts to help Spider-Man. However, due to his interference, Stiltman escapes. Confronted by Spider-Man, Wheel reveals that in the interim since their last meeting, he went to jail for embezzlement and joined Vil-Anon, an analog of Alcoholics Anonymous for supervillains. In fact, his attempt to help the hero was part of his 12-step program. Out of pity, Spider-Man lets Big Wheel accompany him for the rest of the day. While foiling a bank robbery, the pair confronts the Shocker. Although they defeat him, Jackson Wheel finally realizes that he is not cut out for superheroics. He now makes his living using his Big Wheel rig and demolition derbies and speaking at events for Vil-Anon. So yes, he joined a demolition derby, which I find hilarious. The Big Wheel is discussed in the Spectacular Spider-Man number 21 during a superhero poker game. Spider-Man tells Reed Richards that the Big Wheel is one of the craziest things he has ever seen. The Human Torch says he has met the man at the Rusty Nail and he's working as a security guard. The Torch also claims the Wheel's first name is Axel, although he may be joking. He makes an appearance during Civil War storyline. He fights Ghost Rider alongside Blackout. And then there was a second Big Wheel that says an unnamed operator of the Big Wheel was on a crime spree until he was defeated by Spider-Man. Powers and abilities. Jackson Wheel has no superpowers but drives a large metal wheel which is equipped with guns and Waldo arms. So basically it's a rolling tank. He was on the Spider-Man the Animated Series. He was in a few shows. He's been in a lot of comics. And, yep, there you go. So, Big Wheel here. This guy took me a long time to make, and I do not plan on ever taking him apart. Obviously, I'll take him apart to show you how to build him, but then he's going to stay together for as long as I can possibly keep him together. Now, it says he has guns and Waldo arms. These right here are the guns, which they can bend this way and that way, and these are the Waldo arms. I did my best with the arms to actually be able to pick up a minifigure. Let me go ahead and grab Spider-Man for an example. Okay, so I forgot where Spider-Man was. So here's me. You can actually fit a minifigure in between these two ball joint here. And then literally it can hold a minifigure. And then it can rotate 360, bend this way and that way, but I like to just keep it like this. And then if he actually just rolls, they don't even touch the ground. So even if he's holding someone, they won't touch the ground unless you were to adjust it to make them touch the ground so that whenever he drives his wheel, they are hitting the ground and getting multiple concussions. And then obviously the guns don't actually shoot anything. There. Now, these can rotate, because the way Big Wheel works is when the wheel rotates, he stays centered, which as you can see, that is what's happening. you see him inside there, and you can see he doesn't move as the wheel does. Also, what is going on with this focus, my guy? Oh, wait. Let me roll up my sleeve. Sometimes it affects the exposure. Hey. Hello? Okay, that's better. So you can see Jackson wheel in there. And I'll get into pictures more in a second. But these do rotate, but it's supposed to rotate with it. But I couldn't figure out a good way to do that without having to really build this a lot more complicated than it is. And now these are detachable via just one stud. So if you want, he could just roll around like this. But I do like to keep the guns on there. But you could pretend like Spider-Man maybe rips the guns off and the Waldo arms off, so he can't really use them. And like I said, as you see, when I roll this, he stays centered. So like here, if I take off this gun and Waldo arm, look at Big Wheel. He wiggles a little bit. Like, a little bit. But for the most part, he stays centered. Obviously, he does, I guess you could say, kind of lags a little bit. But I will show you how that works. So, let me take these off here. Okay, well, before I do that, I'm getting all over the place here. I need to show pictures first. So, here's Big Wheel. Alright, right here. And now, over here is the picture that I based it off, or some of the pictures I used to base it off of. And then Jackson Wheel here, if I just pop these off here. But as you saw in the picture, Big Wheel has more of these axles going here, but I can only include 4 on each side. And then these are what make up the little window parts, but I did my best here. And as you can see, Jackson Wheel in there, I based it off of this picture, because he wears like green and dark green, but I thought, why not do green and yellow? And I made the entire wheel mainly with dark gray and yellow pieces, because I didn't want to have dark gray hinges and then just yellow. It didn't look right to me, so I wanted to make it yellow and dark gray scheme. Now, as you can see, when I'm rotating him, he's kind of lagging a bit, because whenever you put pressure over here, it tightens it up. So if you pull, he'll sink back down. Like, he flows freely here. If any of you ever played that game, let me know. I love that game. And now these dots here represent the spikes that actually drill into everything, so he can go up buildings and stuff. But so I can show you how it works as you take off these guns. I mean, and we'll take a closer look at the minifigure, but like I said, first I'm going to show you how the Big Wheel actually works. And then we will take a look at the minifigure. So we take those off. And now if I can take this off carefully, I can't. Okay. So the way, you have to push these in to get it out. Okay. Now this is wiggling freely, as you can see. If I hold Jackson here, pull this off. Okay. Well, let me take this part out. Basically, these axle pieces, I used the gyrosphere technique. I built a seat, and I'm going to go ahead and take him out so I can look at him later. But I built a seat, and it uses these axle pieces here. And they go into this gray hole here, which, like I said, just goes around freely. But it allows the seat to spin, or to stay remotely still as the wheel spins. Now, sometimes the pieces do get caught, but that's because it's sinking down. But when there's other ones there, it holds everything up and in place where it should be. Now, as you can see, there are also gaps between these and this with the little gray axles inside, because this is all bent in a certain way, and if you don't do it almost perfectly, then it's not going to work. It has to be as symmetrical as humanly possible. But then you just click that back in there, and then you hold this still where it is, pull these out, and connect to the center of the bottom of these axles, not like this part, in between, but on the bottom. And then it stays there, and then as you can see, the seat inside there is staying remotely still as the wheel rolls. So that's how it works, and you can actually I like to pretend that Spider-Man is like busting these out by just like tapping them. They are in there pretty easily. These pieces attach to this. Let me get this out of the way. Attach to these like this in the center of it, not directly underneath it, you know. But the way that works is you just, well, first you gotta move this, and then you just click that in there, and it keeps all of these pins connected to or bent where they are symmetrically on both sides. Some of them, if you were to drop this, like if you put this on your shelf and it rolls off, it's going to dent inwards, and then you'll have to bend it back into place. I've done that multiple times already. But that's it for the actual wheel build. Now let's take a look at the minifigure. Okay, so here's the actual Jackson wheel minifigure, and he's a little bit difficult to make. I had to order one piece for him, but you might not have all the figures needed to make him. So the torso is from a Hydra henchman that I got from the Iron Skull sub attack, but I'm assuming you can also get it from another set that has Red Skull and like some big old tank, and then there's a Hydra henchman. Yellow arms, green hands. The legs are from Mighty Micro Scorpion because they kind of have the same color. Because when you print yellow, which is a bright color, on green, which is kind of a darker color, it tends to fade it out more. Like, as you can see, this is yellow, but more faded out. And so it kind of matches the color scheme here. And then there's the back. And then the helmet is from, I believe, it's from a Nexo Knight. I never got those sets, but I forgot his name. Aaron, I believe. I think it was Aaron. And then the head is from Clone Troopers, or I got it from Rhino. Back from the like Rhino and Sandman team up set, and I think 2015. Yeah, it was either 2015 or 2014. But yeah, there's your Jackson wheel, and now we're going to get into the tutorial of how to build the wheel itself. well, that was the tutorial for Big Wheel. And just a warning, um, these axles I had to literally bite and pull, like do everything to get them out of there because they're in there so tight. Apparently, I started bleeding somewhere, and I still don't know where I was bleeding from. It's probably somewhere in my gums, but it's probably closed up by now. But I'm just warning you, if you put 8 of these axles in these pieces, you're not gonna be able to use them again without injuring yourself. So if you plan on keeping this put together forever, then go ahead. But if not, I wouldn't do it, or I wouldn't push him in all the way like I did. Well, I pushed him in until you could see the back of him in there to give it some wiggle room, you know. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, leave a comment down below. Who is your favorite member of the Suppressed 2? And were you able to build the big wheel? Hit the subscribe button to post notification every time I post a video. Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.